Just after 10 a.m. we just got the National Hurricane Center advisory in. Still tropical depression 19, as you can see there, winds still at 35 miles per hour. So the good news with it, it has not intensified any. It's organized a little bit more, but we still have a tropical depression sitting right off the Florida coast, about to get back into the Gulf of Mexico. Movement is still 9 miles per hour towards the west, so that is holding steady as well. A closer look at things, you can see there it is trying to wrap up and organize some more. You do still have some dry air and some shear on the northerly side, and that's what's keeping all these storms on the southerly side. But once it gets into the Gulf, it's going to be moving into a little less wind shear over the next couple of days. We do expect it to organize more, become Tropical Storm Sally maybe later on this afternoon into this evening, and this wind shear is going to be lifting on out. So ingredients are coming together for this thing to strengthen. Here is the latest forecast track. There has been a few changes to it. I'll show you. You can see there, tropical depression later on this afternoon into this evening. It will be named Sally. Continues that track at a pretty good speed, maybe 10 miles per hour or so as it lifts towards the northwest. As we go into Sunday, notice south of the Florida Panhandle, this is by Sunday night, still strengthening up to a strong tropical storm by Monday morning, and then potentially becoming a hurricane. They now have a hurricane symbol there in the forecast as we go into Monday evening. But notice what's happening as it's becoming a hurricane. It is slowing down. I mean, this is Monday morning. This is Monday night. It barely moves about 50 miles, moves 50 more miles, maybe less as we go into Tuesday morning as a hurricane potentially right off the coast, and then starts to make that slow turn to the north as we go into Tuesday. So Tuesday would likely be the landfall. But I want you to notice, here's Tuesday morning into Wednesday morning. It barely moves. So this slow movement means heavy rainfall might be a big problem for this, especially near the center and east of the center. Remember, there's a forecast cone of uncertainty for a reason. It allows us some error with the forecast. So if this were to track a bit further over here, greater impacts, let's say for New Orleans, the North Shore. If it were to track a bit closer to South Mississippi, the main impacts would stay just on the outside of the New Orleans area, going over towards Mobile. But too close for comfort right now. Everyone in this area, all the way from South Louisiana going into the edge of the Florida Panhandle, needs to keep a very close eye on this thing. And notice also they have it strengthening up until landfall. There's a big difference between a weakening system going to make landfall and a strengthening system making landfall. So we need to watch this closely because they do have it up to 80 miles per hour there, and that's something we'll have to watch as we go throughout the next day or so as we continue to track this thing and how it evolves once it gets over the warm Gulf waters and the lower wind shear. Here's what's steering it, and here's why we think it's going to slow down. You've got the ridge right now pushing it towards the west, but as we go into Monday, when it starts to slow down, that ridge actually heads out towards the east along with that trough, or towards the east along with that trough. We have this new ridge building ahead of it, and it kind of acts as a wall essentially, and the winds are very weak in the atmosphere when you have a ridge, so there's not going to be a whole lot pulling in this, and that's why we expect it to slow down as it approaches the coast, and it also could be strengthening. So we're talking the potential for a big rainmaker along with maybe a hurricane. So you like these things to move in and move out. This one might not do that. We're talking rainfall totals possibly over a foot for some locations. It all depends on the track, and these numbers that you see here are likely going to shift around a bit. Don't be surprised if this shifts to the east, or maybe it shifts towards the west a little bit, depending on what the track eventually does. But with the current thinking, the heaviest rain would be right near the center and on the east side, and that means coastal Mississippi over towards Alabama, possibly even parts of here in southeast Louisiana. Notice the rainfall totals do drop off pretty quickly as you get up towards Baton Rouge, but it all just depends on the track. So there's a bullseye here of 15 plus inches. That could certainly move around. We're going with 4 to 8 inches across most of the area right now. However, depending on track, that could go up. It could go down. It just goes to show you we're kind of in that area again where we could see a split between one area seeing a little rain and one area seeing a lot of rainfall. But there is that potential to see quite a bit of flooding rain from this. Tropical storm force winds. Of course, if we get a hurricane, we're going to have wind problems and things like that. So we need to focus on that as well. We could start to see some of those stronger winds creep into the coastal areas as we go into Monday morning. Of course, it's going to be slow moving, and by Monday night, you've got the stronger winds starting to push into the metro here, going into Tuesday morning, and then by Tuesday night, lifting up towards Baton Rouge, let's say Macomb, and up towards Jackson, Mississippi. So a pretty slow movement with the storm, but you can see there's a potential to see some strong winds over the entire area as what will become Sally moves on through, mainly Monday going into late Monday going into Tuesday and Wednesday. I was talking about the scenarios, and there are still quite a bit of scenarios. This is the current one with the current forecast, and it moves the center very close to, let's say, New Orleans, South Mississippi, the North Shore, and that would have high impacts with regards to rainfall, coastal flooding. We're talking storm surge with that strong onshore flow, and we would have big wind problems if it's a Category 1 hurricane at least. So you notice all those very high. That's the current forecast, but there's still that uncertainty. Maybe it tracks a bit further towards the south and towards the west of New Orleans. That means the rainfall would be very, very problematic here across the entire area. Coastal flooding would still be a big issue. Winds would still be an issue, but maybe a little bit less if the center went further towards the south of New Orleans. And tornado threat, that would be there as well. Now, best case scenario would be for this thing to go east of us, right? We want this thing to go as far east of us as it can. This scenario would take it, let's say, towards Mobile. The Florida Panhandle impacts for southeast Louisiana would be much, much lower and gradually go up as you get closer to the center. But we probably wouldn't pick up much rainfall if the center of the storm went just to our east over towards, let's say, Mobile. Coastal flooding would not be an issue except for maybe on the lakefront here on the south shore with that strong northerly wind. And our wind problem would not be that big of a deal either, along with tornadoes. So this is best case scenario. It is a possibility, but it's looking more likely like that center line is kind of through southeast Louisiana, South Mississippi at this point. And that's been holding pretty steady with most of the models. I want to show you one of the models to give you an idea of why this could potentially drop a lot of rainfall with its slow movement. And this is just one of the models. Remember, it's not a forecast, it's a tool we use, but it's a good description of what might happen. Here's the center of the storm going into Sunday. As we go into Monday, though, notice there it is off the coast. This is Monday morning, strengthening up to a hurricane, starting to get some of those outer bands across the area as we go throughout Monday morning. And then it slowly, and I mean slowly, creeps up to the coast as we go into Tuesday morning. There it is, possibly as a Category 1, but over that 12 hours, this is all it moved. It hardly moved at all, and wherever you see those yellows and oranges, of course, is heavy rainfall. So if the center of the storm, let's say, tracks over New Orleans like this would be very problematic for a lot of the area. If the center of the storm was a bit further towards the east, up towards South Mississippi, you can kind of imagine all this yellow would shift a bit further out of town, and the flooding problem would be greatest from Mississippi going over towards Alabama and potentially the North Shore. It could potentially also go a little bit further to the west. So that's just the scenario thing we're dealing with and why we need to follow this very, very closely, because it is looking likely like we'll see at least some impacts from the system. It could be a hurricane. Live radar showing we do have some showers out there today, part of a different tropical system that's to our south. So we're seeing some heavier rain there along the coast, and we've got some out in the open waters as well. This is all pushing off towards the west as that tropical wave down to our south moves to the west. This is moving with it. So you can expect more showers and thunderstorms as we go throughout today. If you're doing any planning, things like that, cleaning out gutters, do the things you can now, because come Monday, conditions will go downhill, especially later on in the day. So you've got rainfall out there this afternoon. That will continue today. We'll probably see some showers and thunderstorms tomorrow as well. A few peaks of sunshine here and there, but overall not too bad Saturday and Sunday. Monday will probably start pretty nice, and depending on the track with the current forecast, conditions would go downhill very quickly late into Monday. The big day would be Tuesday with that slow moving system. We're talking midnight to midnight from Monday to Wednesday, and then even through Wednesday as that system slowly lifts out of the area. We're still dealing with heavy rainfall, strong onshore flow, so storm surge issues. And by the way, we have not gotten any values in from the National Hurricane Center yet on storm surge potential, but of course if we have a landfalling hurricane, we're going to have storm surge issues. So we'll hopefully get those numbers later on today, and you can see there Thursday and Friday as well. So that is the latest as of the 10 a.m. advisory from the National Hurricane Center. Could be dealing with a landfalling hurricane here in southeast Louisiana or South Mississippi by Tuesday. Impacts could be felt by Monday and could linger all the way maybe into early parts of Thursday, depending on how slow this thing moves. So we're talking heavy rainfall, storm surge, and winds. So we're going to follow this very closely. We'll have more updates. Our next update, of course, comes in at 1 p.m. It won't be a new track update, but we might have Tropical Storm Sally later on this afternoon. And of course, we'll bring you the details then. For now, we're going to send you back to regular programming.
From Channel 4's Eyewitness News, this has been